Good evening. Welcome to Republic TV. I'm Ridhumanan Bhardwaj. Viewers, for the last few weeks, we've seen a torrid controversy that continues on the same-sex marriage marathon hearing in the top court of the country. But the real questions to ask here, are we as India ready for same-sex marriage? How does Indian contemporary society look at this? What is going to happen to other things such as the adoption laws, maintenance, or other such laws that have to be also seen?
Same-sex marriage has become a roaring national debate.
As a practicing Muslim, my stand is that it is a sin. But yes, there is a grey area of the constitution.
In the Supreme Court, the centre has proposed an interministerial committee to address the issue.
Issue was some genuine human concerns, and my lord, the discussion was that something can be done administratively. Lord, I have taken instructions, my lord.
Yeah.
And government is positive, my lord. What we have decided is, my lord, of course, subject to your lordship's approval, my lord, this would need coordination between more than one ministries, my lord. So therefore, a committee headed by no less than the cabinet secretary will be constituted. My friends can give me the suggestions or the problems which they are facing, which, my lord, the committee will go into and will try and see that so long as possible, so far as legally permissible, but they are addressed.
There are very substantive issues of law which are involved. Obviously, all this is without prejudice to that. This, at the best, what is being suggested is administrative tweaking where necessary in a committee based on suggestions. Legal tweaking is another system. The law is involved in many cases. So what we'll do is we'll confer. Without prejudice, we can certainly give. But personally, when I don't think that your lordship will have any major solution, having seen the gamut of problems and the level at which conceptually and jurisprudentially matter has been argued, I think it is better that your lordship spend so much time to go on to a decision.
The Honourable Five-Judge Bench found merit in the proposal.
This is without prejudice to everybody's rights content. One. Number two, even if the court was to, suppose you were to succeed to a limited extent and the court was inclined to give you a status of a marriage or inclined to give you a status of some other status, let us say not marriage but some other status, there will be many changes required in administrative proceedings as also legislative aspects. Therefore, if there is a consensus, at least whatever be the status recognized, after all, they are not denying that this is an incidence of society which is happening. They are reluctant to give it a status of marriage. But they are not, I believe from what solicitor says, reluctant to sort out the problems arising from a gay companionship without labeling it as marriage to the extent possible.
Outside court, arguments are being made on both sides.
In the socio-religious structure of our society, particularly our country, the bar, which is supposed to be the mouthpiece of the common man of the country, we thought that it is against our culture, our civilization, and such moves, whether it is genuine or bad or good, obviously it is bad, we have decided. But such move, that should come through the process of the legislation.
Our lawyers are not just talking to the judges, they're talking to the whole country, and they're telling a story to the whole country. And it's very important that this story is told, because where the position may be that this is something for the legislature, it's my opinion that, and I've been saying this, is that sometimes it's a case that the law has to pull society forward. But I think in this case, society is now pulling law forward.
But is the matter best addressed in the domain of the Parliament?
A sensitive and important matter like the institution of marriage has to be decided by the people of the country.
This is a sub judice matter. If I'm a party to the Special Marriage Act, as somebody who's married under that act, who would I want to opine on my rights? Constitutionally, it's the job of Parliament. So let the wisdom of Parliament prevail if the issue comes up in front of Parliament.
It's the biggest legal debate on the subject tonight.
All these things have to be taken into consideration as I introduce my panel today, because today what we are really having to try and understand as the same-sex marriage hearing in the Supreme Court is drawing to an end is what is really going to happen. Let me first introduce my panel today. We have Ashok Rao Kavi, journalist and LGBTQ activist, who's joining us live from Mumbai. We have Chaitanya and Abhishek, the first gay couple to wed in Kolkata, who are also joining us. Aruna Desai, co-founder of Swikar, the Rainbow Parents, live from Mumbai. We have Deshrata Nigam, lawyer and advocate from the Supreme Court, live from Delhi. Ashwini Dubey, lawyer from Supreme Court, going to be joining us. Rahul Ishwar, activist, live from Trivandrum. And Mithun Vijay Kumar, political analyst, also live from Calicut. As I welcome all of you, I'm going to first ask Ashok Rao Kavi a question. Mr. Kavi, we've seen you several times in several debates over the many years. We've seen the 2008 judgment. We remember how even at that time there was some sort of a discord between the health ministry, the home ministry at that time. We then saw the phenomenal judgment that came in from the Supreme Court where they decriminalized homosexuality. This could have been the next progressive step, but is India ready? This is also something that the Chief Justice of India is asking, and he's giving out a hint about what possibly lies ahead. How do you look at it?
First of all, this sort of argument that we should be ready for some sort of settlement where we get some recognition about our relationships is ridiculous. Was India ready for the Hindu Marriages Act in 1954 when someone like Bhimrao Ambedkar had one of the most progressive marriage acts ready? It wasn't. Rajendra Prasad, so many of the top Congress political class refused to accept it. But it was passed. And Hindus learned to reform. We had polygamy, we had child marriage, all sorts of things happening. Now, of course, we're still going through some of the issues, but we were not ready, but we had to get it through. That's what human rights are all about. You had a constitution, and once you accept the constitution, there are constitutional rights. There aren't particular religious rights, there aren't particular civil sort of rights. There isn't public morality. You know, that you can't bend down to everyone. If out of 1 billion, even 99% are against it, you need to have the same laws for everybody, and we have a right to fight for our, rights, which I think, the same, I don't understand why this business about, are you ready for it? Who's going to be ready for it? Nobody's. Are the young couples that I see here around me, are they ready for marriage? Sometimes they're not, but they do go and get married because that is their right. So that's what I mean to say. I hope you agree, because I think it's a very foolish argument for what I was hearing in the Supreme Court. Sorry, I know it might be a contempt of court, mixing up gender, say things like Mr. Tushar Mehta says, in a lesbian relationship, who is the husband and who's the wife? I think they're both partners. It's none of your business what they do in their bedroom. I don't understand all this nonsense. The people there, I wonder how many, there were gay couples there. There was this Kripal there, there was Menaka there. But they should have put a stop to it then. They should have objected to somebody like Tushar saying these obnoxious things about a community he knows nothing about.
Okay, to really understand what a gay couple that's wed is going through, I'm also going to go across to Chaitanya and Abhishek. But before that, I want to get in a word from Rahul Ishwar. Ashwini Dubey is also joining us, lawyer from the Supreme Court. Rahul, I want to ask you, the government as a first step told the Supreme Court on the 7th day of the hearing that towards an amicable resolution, they have submitted positively that there will be a committee, a panel that will be set up under the chairmanship of the Cabinet Secretary to discuss the concerns of same-sex marriage couples. Is this something that is going to be seen as enough for all of them?
3 submissions. One, everyone in this panel and nearly everyone in the world agrees to the fact that there should not be any homophobia. There should not be any discrimination. These things are an absolute given.
Oh God.
All the best to homosexual community in their fight. But at the same point of time, there are some reasonable inhibitions from the part of the civil society. That's regarding nature, culture and future. And there are many responsible people, not only in India, but around the world, who expresses inhibition on these aspects of nature, culture and future. For example, Pope Francis, who is a world-respected spiritual leader, went on to say that there should not be any homophobia. Who am I to judge? At the same point of time, the Catholic Church and the Pope rightfully says that we have some reservations in allowing the tag of marriage to homosexual unions. So there is an informed debate that needs to happen. More education needs to be there, more sensitization needs to be there, more consultation needs to be there, and more importantly, let the parliament also get involved. It's the temple of democracy. Not just one submission. It's a temple of democracy.
Are you speaking on behalf of the Catholic Church?
Let there be more people involved. No, I'm raising the point of view of the entire right-leaning spectrum. The entire right-leaning spectrum, whether they are Hindus, Muslim or Christians, have some reasonable and respectful apprehensions regarding the entire thing, not only in India, even in a nation like US. So let there be more consultation, let there be more education and sensitization, let the parliament also get involved. And as we all know, the domain of parliament is law making. The domain of Supreme Court is law interpretation.
May I interfere?
So if the parliament can also, sir, just let me finish my submission. So if the parliament can also intervene, talk about it, it will be a rightful place. We all know Justice Chandrachud ji, who is a very progressive and liberal person. We know where he is trying to take the entire thing. No respect to CJI, it is his position. At the same point of time, Parliament being the supreme lawmaking body also has a right to say in this. And there are various state governments who also have a right to say in this. So it's a very complicated and nuanced issue. I respect homosexual community's struggle and their fight. I respect Ashok Kavi ji, who have been in with many debates. But it's a process, and that process involves more discussion, education, and sensitization.
I need to stop him. I need to stop him. Excuse me. First of all, nobody has a right to talk about my fundamental rights. I do not want my fundamental rights to be discussed in Parliament. They have to be interpreted and put down as law by the Supreme Court. Who
but Parliament has a fundamental right.
Whether I should get married or not in Parliament. That's ridiculous.
But Parliament has a fundamental right to talk about marriage,
does not come in the way of no.
Ashokji,
they can talk about marriage, but it cannot offer me as a beggar.
I want to bring in my lawyers here, Ashok Rao Kavi. I also want to bring in Ashwini Dubey, Deshrata Nigam, who are also joining us on this. The Deshrata Nigam, if I could actually ask you, in the last hearing, the Chief Justice of India hinted the same-sex marriage hearing is going to be coming to an end. But what Ashok Rao Kavi said, taking off from there, the Chief Justice of India made a very important observation. He said, the conceptual domain requires legislature changes, and therefore it's completely beyond our domain. So what we have to do is frame the conceptual doctrine. Some things can be done administratively, something can be changed by subordinate legislation, and the third is recognition of same-sex marriage. So in a sense, for the very first time, we are hearing the Supreme Court also admit it is the Parliament and the people of India that need to discuss this and come to a conclusion.
Absolutely, Rhythm. In fact, when somebody talks about whether we are ready or not ready, one has to think about the various acts of the Parliament. Now, one of our co-panelists said whether India was ready when the Hindu Marriage Act was passed or not. Yes, India was ready because Parliament passed it. It was discussed and it was passed almost unanimously. Here and there were, dissents. Yes, obviously in a democracy there will be there. So how do you decide whether India is ready or not? You decide through elected representatives. You don't do referendums every now and then. And the Parliament is a right place which reflects the social opinion. And once that opinion comes on the floor of the Parliament, then whether a law is to be passed or not, it is a prerogative of the Parliament. And similarly here also, what should be the definition of a marriage, which has already been defined in all the acts? If you look at the parliamentary debates of that time, the intention was of heterosexual marriage between man and women. It was never discussed that it has to be for same-sex marriage. It had come up, but was rejected also. So therefore, who will decide? We today, is your society ready or not? Let the Parliament decide. An informed opinion, as Rahul Ishwar has said, will come out there. And let it be debated in Parliament. And let me tell you, parliamentarians are very sensitive of public opinion. If today they know that the country wants that particular law, they will immediately take it up because there is a public pressure on them. And once they do not take it, please, take it from me that there is no public pressure on the elected representatives. There is no general public opinion on that subject. Yes, there are few who talk about their fundamental rights. But let me tell you, when the hijab case came up, rhythm. You remember there was a concept of institutional rights versus individual rights. And the High Court said in this particular case, institutional rights will supersede individual rights. So institutional rights were given priority. Here, society also has certain rights of public order, stability, peace in mind. Remember in America, when the abortion judgment came, there was a backlash. So we don't want that kind of a situation here. Our parliament is quite competent, and it has consequences for about 160 laws which need to be changed. Supreme Court cannot do it. It belongs to legislative domain. Nobody is denying them anything. But the fact remains, who should do it? Whether there is India is ready or not, whether India is sufficiently changed or not, these are the questions which need to be discussed in Parliament. And tomorrow, if Parliament decides to make a law on this subject, I think everybody will accept it. Now, remember Jallikattu happened, Sabrimala happened, not accepted by the people. They are just judgments on paper. So let us be practical also. Let us not run ahead of time. Any law which is, any judgment which makes a law which is ahead of its time is never accepted by people. And therefore, I still believe the Parliament is the appropriate place, which the Supreme Court has also said so.
Okay, so you're saying don't push change so fast. Don't shake things up. All the people of the country need to come together to decide. But I want to know how a gay couple who is wed in Calcutta really feels, Kolkata really feels about this. Chaitanya and Abhishek, I want to ask you. Of course, 377 has been decriminalized. It's been read down. But when you hear these kind of arguments, it's being made about you. How do you look at the kind of words that are being said? And also, do you think your marriage also is impacted? The laws of adoption, the laws of divorce, the laws of inheritance. And like Dr. Menaka Guruswamy said in the court, it really matters that there are sometimes you want to open a joint bank account. A lot of things are not possible.
Right. So I just want to add here, like, it's not just a matter of a same-sex marriage anymore. It's we need to talk about the fundamental rights, and in India, all the basic fundamental rights about the PF or the property inheritance or the medical is all dependent on the marriage rights. So, like, if I have to declare someone as a spouse on the PF, I cannot declare Abhishek as of now. We are socially married. We are not legally married. And the people who are just saying, let the parliament decide, I just want to ask what parliament have done in last 5 years. 377 is decriminalized in 2018, and the Supreme Court have asked the government to take initiative to create awareness. The government have done nothing in last 5 years to create awareness. So why we are asking, let the government decide? First thing. Second, is society ready? I think the way we got married and the kind of like the response we have received after we got married was amazing. Like, everybody in our side, like our neighbors or relative or friends or colleagues, everybody accepted really well. Now the important point is, we are surrounded with educated people. We are in better place. We are in urban cities. But what about the people who are in rural areas? We need to get this law passed so that people who are in rural place should come out of their closet, or they come out of their about their orientation very openly to their family members or their friends. So yeah, I think society is ready. And why it's sounding like the majority of people is deciding the way minority of people should live. This is sounding like that only. Like 70% or 80% of population will going to decide how the 20% population will going to live their life.
It's not even the question of majority and minority here. It's a question about any individual expressing their willingness to utilize their fundamental rights. Like, you cannot possibly rob a citizen of the same country of his or her basic fundamental rights, which he or she, that person, cannot exercise fully. So it's nothing unjustified that any of us or any of our community members are asking for. And as pointed out by all the experts around us, like no change can be such a big social change cannot happen overnight. Okay, we absolutely understand that, but then to make that change happen, we have to work positively towards it. Like, there will be a lot of obstacles that we will have to face, and we have been facing it for a very, very long time. And, we have to constantly keep fighting for it. And I just don't understand one thing. It's like nothing unjustified that we are asking for, right? We are asking for those basic rights which any other straight couple or any other heterosexual married couple can actually exercise, and that is all that we are seeking for.
And in India, every individual have full right to live their life with dignity. And if any individual is unable to enjoy the fundamental rights, the person is not living life with dignity. So you can say we are not living our life with dignity as an Indian citizen.
And like we could actually take this step, like we could actually go against society and get married, because we feel like our education, our exposure, the kind of social circles that we have moved in have made us kind of think a little boldly that we have not really cared what the law will think or whatever, or what if we are confiscated or whatever, but a law actually, if it is passed, and for other, like for people in the rural areas, okay, they have the backing of law. So this law is really, really important for all homosexual people around India.
Okay, Ashwini Dubey, going off from where Chaitanya and Abhishek spoke, I want to ask you, like they said, India lives not only in the metros, but it also lives in the villages, and rural India is far bigger in population than in metro cities. This is one of the arguments that the Solicitor General also made in the court. How can we, without a discussion and a deliberation, think of what a farmer somewhere is thinking or what someone else in a smaller village is thinking? How are we to look and ensure that everybody comes together to ensure that there are rights for all citizens of India?
Thank you, Rhythm, for having me here. Rhythm, the jurisprudence of any nation, be it by way of codified law or otherwise, evolves based on the societal values. Values which starts from one place of the country and ends another part of the country, which Honorable Learned Solicitor General referred that India is the India which lives in the villages also. The beliefs, the cultural history and other factors. My friend very categorically, very candidly, he said the right to life, right to live with dignity. Indeed, the right to live in dignity, with dignity and lead a dignified private life has been recognized by the Supreme Court. They have a fundamental right. But Rhythm, we must understand that there are two kinds of laws which exist in our country. One law which passed the constitutional test under Article 13 subclause 4 of the Constitution of India, which has been passed by the Parliament. Other is the personal laws. How a court judgment will supervise, look into and enter into that domain, that look the Parliament, the personal laws and as well as the laws passed by the Parliament, codified laws, this judgment will be applicable. My point number one. Point number two. The registration of marriage of the same-sex persons results in violation of the existing personal as well as codified law provisions such as degrees of prohibited relationship, conditions of marriage, which has find place in the Special Marriage Act, where the Honorable Court and the Solicitor General entire argument is taking place that they change the wife in place and make it a spouse. What would be the degrees of prohibited relationship? Conditions of marriage, ceremonial and ritual requirements under personal laws governing the individuals. And if a marriage is to be solemnized and registered under any personal law, requirements for registration. If marriage is to be registered under the Special Marriage Act, then the restitution of conjugal rights. Suppose tomorrow those couples some disputes arise between them. And if one wants to restitute its conjugal rights, what would be the provision? Then the judicial separation, then the divorce, then condition of divorce, then alimony, maintenance, then permanent alimony, expenses of marriage proceedings, disposal of property, adoption, guardianship. Where from these rights will be exercised by the virtue of the Honorable Court's judgment? Of course, no. There are more than 188 laws existing in the country which needs to be changed. So it is the duty of the legislature to take a call. Point 3. Parliament has designed and framed the marriage laws in the country, which is governed by the personal laws, codified laws, and relatable to the customs of various religious communities to recognize only the union of a man and woman to be capable of legal sanction and thereby claim legal and statutory rights and consequences. How will it be decided by the Honorable Court? Point number 4. Any interference with the laws which I mentioned, the customs which I mentioned, the duties as well as the conditions which are mentioned, how it will be dealt. So there is a case case where it should be left over the wisdom of the parliament. Because two judgments, very finest judgments we have in the country. One, the right to privacy, right to live with dignity with the privacy does not mean that you to have a right to exercise that right in public domain as well. Right to live with dignity and decriminalizing this 377. That is indeed a judgment, but let the parliament take. We are a evolving society. We are a reform, so reforms are taking each and every day. So let the parliament decide on the basis of cultural ethos, on the basis of taking the stakeholders and the various people's opinion, and let it take by virtue of a law passed by the parliament instead of taking it to the court. And look, the majority and minority, those will live in this country only. So the respectable acceptance by each and every countryman will only be possible when a law will be passed by the parliament. That is over. Yes, Ridham.
Okay, I also wanted to ask Aruna Desai, co-founder of Swikar. You've been listening very patiently. Thank you for that, Aruna. Aruna, a lot of people speaking about parliament that has the right to decide laws, but political parties are there in parliament. Do you think they're going to come to a consensus?
I feel that whoever decides, whether parliament or Supreme Court, I wish to see my child living life with dignity and love, where their relationships are recognized and not decriminalized.
Okay. Yes, that's true. This is a lot of people saying about dignity, and it's absolutely a fundamental right that has to be taken into notice. Mithun Vijay Kumar, political analyst, also joining us from Calicut. Mithun Vijay Kumar, when it comes to dignity, there is something that was also said by senior counsel appearing for Madhya Pradesh in the court, where he asked the court to go slow in the matter. He also cited the court should not rush into ensuring gender equality. For example, in the Sabrimala case where that had happened and that led to a counter-revolution, I remember several debates with Rahul on that as well. As a result, the court had to back down, refer it to a 9-judge bench. So keeping that in mind, he also said fundamental rights can't be seen in a vacuum.
The society and our laws are built on the principles of normalcy, what is normally accepted. And any deviation from normal is considered abnormal. That's why, homosexual marriage doesn't go with the largely accepted principles of the society as of now. And ultimately, this has to be discussed in the parliament, as our legal experts have mentioned. And they have also, pointed out some of the issues with this homosexual marriage that would apply in different social terms. So, if this is all about social reformation, then homosexuals should be fighting for other things as well for equal representation, is what I personally feel. For example, they should fight to get the Indian Army Act amended because it still identifies homosexuality as a crime, let alone homosexual marriage. So I believe the desire to serve the nation is definitely bigger than the desire to get married, isn't it? Because by joining the army, you will be serving a large number of people, whereas marriage only has, individual selfish goals, I can say. Or is it that homosexuals are least bothered about fighting at the war front and all they need is a marriage? So what I'm saying is there are larger causes that need to be, larger issues that need to be addressed, or larger, aspects of the society that needs to accept this homosexual marriage, first of all. So what I'm trying to say is, as of now, homosexuals are minority, like one of the panelists said, and the problems associated with homosexuality are not becoming very evident.
saying is this is going to have an impact on society. I want Rahul and Ashok Rao Kavi to be debating on this, because Ashok Rao Kavi is looking palpably agitated at the arguments here today. Rahul, I first want you to get in a word, and then Ashok Rao Kavi.
Just one submission. All the respect to the mother. I heard a mother speaking about their particular child's right.
He always shouts me down.
I mean, I believe that question was asked to me, sir. I'll just take 2 lines.
Rahul,
I'll just take 2 lines, sir.
There are listen. Yeah. You see, what I am seeing 2 strands here. For example, when they say that so many statutes have to be changed, all that, we can come to that later on, because there are the Muslim Personal Act and the Christian Personal Act will never accept same-sex marriages. It's against their faith. It's against their doctrine. So the point is, we're going to come against that wall. We can go the French way, that we can have civil unions, that are recognized by law, which recognize the marriage of the same-sex couple, and then they can choose whether they want to come under the common civil code, and then see how it fits into the different personal acts. If it does not, for example, what has happened in Kerala, the Muslim couple decided to go and get married under Special Marriages Act, because under the Nikah Act they would have the daughters wouldn't have got the property of the father. So these are going to come in the way if you keep on going listen, if you go according to the Australian way, that every one of these statutes will have to be changed by Parliament, then people like me, anyway I'm 75, I'm never going to get married, I'll die single. But at least these couples, young couples, will get their marriages recognized, and they will get citizenship rights. Simple things like joint accounts, provident fund is, nomination, able to visit their partner when they're in hospital. Do you know, during the funeral of of a partner, the same-sex partner was not allowed to come for the funeral. How do you take away that simple dignity from us? And I am seeing that this whole business that Parliament is supreme. Yes.
Ashokji, just 2 submissions. First of all, a deep respect to your mother. I heard a mother's voice who wanted right for her child of a homosexual marriage. Respect to that mother. I believe such voices will definitely open the eyes of more people towards being more sensitive. We all respect the voice. I respect Ashokji's voice when he says that yes, there is a nuanced difference between Hindu faith and our Semitic brothers. Our Semitic brothers, especially our Christian and Muslim brothers, even in their holy book and Kitab believes Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed because of such activities, and there are a lot of structural issues and firewalls there. Hindu community comparatively have been a bit more open, inclusive, especially in this matter of homosexual marriage. But at the same time, there needs to be much more debate and discussion. See, decriminalization is okay. That was much more accepted because nobody would like to brand a personal private behavior as criminal. But here, homosexual community is asking for the tag of marriage, which has been rightly said by Deshratham Nigamji, that has been for heterosexual couple for thousands of years. So this whole idea of a biological man and a biological woman coming together for marriage is the bedrock of civilization in the entire modern history for the past 5,000 years. And we are all afraid whether the respectable and honorable Chief Justice of India, Chandrajudji, is taking it a bit too far when he says there is absolute no concept of a biological man or a biological woman. Just one more line. I'll conclude one more. I'll conclude one more line. Rather than Ashokra, I'll just take one more line.
You're not allowing me to challenge you.
Rather than Ashokji's submissions, I believe many people are genuinely concerned about our Chief Justice of India's posturing. We all respect him for the great legal luminary he is. He's a legal stalwart. But at the same point of time, when he goes on to say things like there is no absolute concept of a man and there is absolute no biological concept of a woman, people are worried because that is not scientific. That is not natural. That is against culture, nature, and the entire scientific framework we have. So people are afraid whether many people are going too woke. Being awakened is okay, but being too woke, is not very good for Indian culture.
Rahul, first of all, 2 things I must try and, torpedo as for the way you go on. One is, I'm being told that in rural India, what is the situation? The first same-sex marriage I reported was in rural India near Bhopal. Ruth Vanita's fantastic book on same-sex rights in India records at the back of the book all the names of the women who committed suicide, who went to temples saying that we want to live together. They did not say that they were lesbians, but they were same-sex couples wanting to live in dignity, and they were accepted in the villages. Our society is a very pluralistic, diverse and great society. It's an Indic civilization. It will accept us. I assure you it will accept us. Ruth Anita said so, that we have been accepted for centuries. If you look at some of Premchand's stories, so many instances in our Puranas, in the epics, that two men have lived together. I don't want to create controversy, but the issue is that this is a society where certain minority religions, like the churches and the Muslim personal board, will perpetually oppose you. They will not allow same-sex couples under same. I don't want to bring in any communal aspects here, but let us go the French way. Let us recognize these unions legally so they can get their citizenship right under the Constitution, and then slowly go ahead and see can we go towards a uniform civil code which will see that all these acts that are based on religion and cultural diversity are put on the side, and the same-sex couple gets all its citizenship rights according to a common civil code which Parliament can then discuss. But give us those rights first. Recognize us. Learn to have little legal respect for what we are, that we are a same-sex couple. In Bombay city, there are 20,000 street children. Do you not want them to be adopted? We can adopt them. So many of the same-sex couples can adopt them. I know lesbian couples which have adopted children, and they are asked embarrassing questions in school. Where is the father? Why are you two women coming together? They're giving infinite trouble in the parents-teachers associations. As the Swikar will tell you, they are fighting tooth and nail that their children find some happiness. If through the recognition of this civil society union, the marriages, through certain civil society sort of acts that can be brought into Parliament, legislated, at least give them the physical rights. Give us our physical rights. The right to go together. If you, for example, in office parties, everybody is asked to get their spouse. What do you do? What do? You can't say that you want to get your same-sex partner. You don't want to get your transgender partner. You can't.
Ashok Rao Kavi,
because
in fact,
people, you
this
say
is
that
one
will
of the
not be
arguments
accepted.
that was also made, Ashok Rao Kavi, in the court by Dr. Singhvi, where he said in the Special Marriage Act, the word man or woman should be replaced with spouse, which can mean anybody. So Dr. Singhvi made this point, and Deshrata Nigam, I also want to ask you, as I tell our viewers.
My dear, I wanted to say something. That replace that with consenting. Listen. Consenting Indian citizen, adult Indian citizen. Remove man and woman and say consenting adult Indian citizen. Don't mention anything to change some of the regressive laws like giving 1 month's notice and all that, and iron it out. It's not a big issue. And as we go
therefore,
forward,
I want to bring across.
As my friend
okay,
says,
point taken. Deshrata Nigam, I want to ask you: isn't this also a big step forward? That after the Chief Justice asked the government to see what steps they will take, they've come forward and said there will be the chairmanship of the Cabinet Secretary, and a panel is now going to be formed to see the genuine human concerns of same-sex couples on marriage. In fact, Dr. Singh also said this is a...
They did that. They did the same thing.
I just want to ask you, yes, Ashok Rao Kavi, I will come back to you.
No, they did the same thing. Yeah. Yes.
To ask you, even in other countries...
They did the same thing to the transgender.
Started in 2004.
They did the same thing to the transgender. They
There was various legislations in different states well, they had that banned same-sex marriage. You know, whether you saw the Defense of Marriage Act that was banned, that was there very much in motion in America. It's only two judgments that came forward in 2013 and 2015, the Obergefell and the Windsor judgment. But it took more than 10 years for the same-sex marriage to go from one state to all the 50 states. Like we spoke, it's also there in Australia, in Germany, in England, Scotland, France, New Zealand, Sweden, Canada, Netherlands. But when we come to what has now been proposed, and I think a hint has been given by the Chief Justice of India, it's going to be accepted. This is a very positive move by the government to say, we want a piece of, we want all the points that you want to bring across to us, and has told the committee, the petitioners, they will listen to all the concerns raised by them.
Rhythm, in fact, the general conclusion which is coming out of this debate is that because of marriage is a social institution, and decriminalization of 377 is a private thing inside a room that you have a right.
Legal.
But
also,
to recognize same-sex marriage as a social institution is something which falls within the domain of society. Now, if other countries give recognition, they have their own cultural mix and civilizational ethos. But India has its own culture and civilization ethos, and which will be decided by our own ethos, not by what America has done, what other people are doing. Now, what CJI is saying, that give them some facilities by way of, say, for example, the nomination in insurance. So this issue is itself ticklish. The government of India is not saying that they will give or not give. They are open with the idea that they will form a panel, and all stakeholders will be there. There will be psychiatrists, there will be doctors. Believe me, I don't know what will be the actual composition of that committee. There will be same-sex people also out there who will ask for marriage certification. There will be everybody. And then the recommendations will come out whether what can be given or cannot be given. So that is the exact way of doing it. And at the same time, this marriage falls within the concurrent list. So states' opinion is also important. States and union territories are also stakeholders. That also came up.
Quick point, because I need to wrap up the debate, and Aruna also wants to make a point.
I also wanted to say that.
Very quickly, Rahul, just 1 minute and I'll stop. You see this effort, the saying that a cabinet secretary and a committee and all, this was tried in the Nalsa case, also regarding the rights of transgender. It never had any result. Nobody moved on it. The government gave a damn. So ultimately we had to go for the Nalsa judgment. According to me, let us move forward. When you say cultural mores and all, why do you underestimate the great patience of this Indic civilization that has hugged all invaders, all sorts of ruthless people?
Sir, Indic civilization accepted it but did not give it a social sanction of marriage. Social sanctity of marriage was not given in Indic civilization. Acceptance was there. Their existence was recognized. It was never given a recognition of social marriage or marriage as an institution between same-sex marriage. That is the difference.
Hindu marriages were registered only in 1954. Before that, there was no need to register them.
But Indic civilizations considered them humans and gave them the right to dignified life, but no marriage as an institution. That was
Ashokji, I would urge more patience from your part. There is still a long way to go. There is still a long way to debate. So I would urge patience from your part. It needs more discussion. It cannot be changed overnight. There needs to be more discussion.
It's been many years that we have been debating. No. It's been many years we have been debating, and we want our children justice. And this is not about public. This is about community children. This is about our children.
Yes.
And it is about their life. Why to ask people? We don't ask about heterosexual people, So when there is a law for one person, there has to be for all.
Sir, you cannot compare apples and pineapples.
Okay,
no. What you are saying? All are human beings. Rahul, you
all of you have spoken your point, but I do want to say just one thing. Next week, the Supreme Court is going to view us once again hear this case on the 9th of May. I think it's a possible culmination, since many lawyers have made their points in the court, and the Supreme Court is going to take into consideration what the government has said. What is going to be interesting to see is whether, like Ashok Rao Kavi, like Aruna, Chaitanya, Abhishek want, will the Special Marriage Act have some changes brought in by this constitution bench that is hearing the case. I thank you all for being with us on Republic TV, and we are looking forward to all of you once again on a debate on this topic. Thank you.